Welcome back to the channel for another video on our 22 WRX. This is finally the week that we're going to get our CSF radiator installed. I'm really excited to get this installed just since we've done a bunch of upgrades on this car and we still have a stock coolant system. So we're definitely overworking that coolant system, and just by adding this CSF radiator, we know temps are going to drop. But I have been monitoring the temperatures, so I should be able to see if the temps are dropping. We'll go over all that stuff towards the end of the video, but you can see we got the car jacked up. All I've done so far is get our skid plates off, and I got my bucket there so we can drain the coolant. I will show you guys where the peacock is under the car so you can just drain the radiator. Then we can just pop the hoses off and just swap it out. Now there will be some work up top. I know we got to take the shroud off. We have an APR carbon fiber one on this car. And then we'll probably take a couple other things off and then it should all just slide out in like an assembly. And then we'll just transfer it over to our CSF here. So I have one other thing to add that I was like really excited about, and that is this VP Mattitive cool down. So this is kind of like water wetter. I've done a little bit of research with this compared to some of the other ones. I really trust VP. It says that we're going to run up to 30 degrees cooler. And then also it says reduces cylinder head temps up to 75 degrees. So whenever you're lowering the engine temperature, that's obviously going to be beneficial. Heat is what kills stuff, melts stuff. Once it starts heating, once it starts getting heat soaked, we'll start getting detonation. So in theory, this should help with lowering the cylinder head temps and then obviously help with lowering the coolant temps. With our CSF radiator and this, there's no way that temps are not going to be dropped a little bit, but we'll test them out and we'll see what happens. But enough talking, let's get to installing. Let's go. All right, we are underneath the car. We have our skid plate off and our belly pan off. It's really nice looking at this turbo kit. It never gets old looking at it. This is the ETS G30-900 turbo kit. We got some heat shield on it, got some cat armor, but I mean, it looks flawless. It looks exactly like how it was when I first installed it and really haven't had any issues with it at all. But we're here to install the radiator. If you look right here, this is the peacock right here. This is the valve you just turn and it just drains straight down. So get your bucket, put it right under, and then open that up. So I'm gonna go up top, open the radiator cap, and then I'm gonna open up and we're gonna get this drained. So let's go. All right, well that is draining. Let's get some of this top stuff taken off. So we'll take this off, just some pop clips to take our shroud off as well. And let's just keep digging until we can pull this thing out. Let's go. All right, with the shroud taken off, looks like we just have 2 10 mils on each side for the radiator brackets, these black things right here with the rubber grommet. So once we get these 2 taken out, it looks like the whole thing should be able to just slide right out once it's done draining. It's still draining, and then we'll just unhook the hoses, pull it out, and then we'll just transfer the fans over to the CSF. But yeah, let's get this out. We'll do a side-by-side comparison. We'll measure the end tanks to see how much thicker it is, and we'll go from there. All right, so it just finished draining. I did notice this here. So this is actually our AC condenser. So you have 2 bolts right here before you can lift it out. So let's get these 2 taken off, and then we'll get these radiator clamps pulled off. And we should be able to just lift the whole thing out, and then we'll do our side-by-side comparison. right, so we have the stock radiator out and we have our CSF right here. I didn't take the cover off yet just because I want to wait till we have everything in and then I can just take the cover off. But just side-by-side comparison, just the bling factor, this is polished, this is very nice looking. Physically it looks a lot thicker, it feels a lot thicker. Peel some of this off, check that out. So let's get, I got a tape measure, so let's get some measurements real quick. I know these measurements are probably online as well, but let's get some real life measurements. So the stock core, 1 inch. That's small. I'm shocked that the car was actually like, honestly, the cooling system was running perfectly fine. We just need to upgrade it because we have all this extra power and we want to go a little bit farther as well. But I'm shocked with a 1 inch radiator, it's still working really good. But our CSF, let's get a quick measurement here. Just about 2 inches. So we're looking at almost double the size right there. I know this is a 2-row, so this is gonna cool a lot better, a lot more efficient than our like OEM single row. I believe this is a single row. And then we have these plastic end tanks. So over time, these plastic end tanks will start to fail and they do usually crack at the seam. Usually the top one busts. I've seen it happen on a few older Subarus before, or if your car has some miles on it, it might start crack up there. The CSF has proven to be really good. I've used the CSF on my Turbo BRZ and obviously it worked great. Let me get you guys set up and we'll get this radiator put in. All right, after that very long time lapse, we finally have the radiator in, everything's all buttoned back up, minus the underside. We didn't get the skid plate or anything put in yet, but let's get some coolant added. We're gonna start with the VP additive cool down, and then we'll add our OEM supercoolant. All right, we got our coolant topped off. I did have to run to the store and grab some, I got some Peak. This is still the blue, so not mixing colors or anything. Didn't account for the larger radiator, of course, because I did look up the coolant capacity for the radiator, and I just needed a gallon and some change because I did have some leftover OEM here, but didn't account for the bigger radiator, so I just had to run to the store real quick, and I just got some Peak blue. So we are good to go to start the car now, and let's go. All right, so the car's up to temp. We got all of our air bubbles out, so we can go ahead and get this thing removed. A little bit of coolant always comes out, so we'll get a little rag. All right, so it's been a few days since we got our CSF radiator installed. I do have the stock one in here. But I wanted to go over a few things post-install. So first thing I want to address is that it wasn't a direct fit if you have a front mount intercooler. So I will show you what I had to trim to make it fit with my intercooler pipe. But besides that, everything's been working perfectly, no leaks. Temps are stable and everything. Obviously the coolant system's been bled over the past couple days. Now with the temperatures, that's like the main thing everyone's probably waiting on or watching these videos. Everyone's trying to see if this is worthwhile upgrade as far as lowering your temps. So I do believe this car is a 190-degree thermostat. So before I did the CSF radiator, the stock temps were always around 196, 194. Sitting in traffic, it never went above 200. Even with the AC on, it really never went above 200. Like the last 2-3 months, I haven't seen it go above that. With the CSF radio, it's the exact same thing. It's honestly the exact same temps. It's around 194. I do see 192 sometimes when I look down at the access port. But it's basically the same temp because I do feel like it is a 190-degree thermostat. Now, that doesn't mean the radiator is not doing anything more than what the stock one is. So if I were to push this car like on the track or even at the drag strip where temps would spike, with this 2-row CSF radiator, it's going to lower those temperatures faster and it's going to help control those temps better. So the fact that the temps are the exact same around that 190 where that thermostat is perfect, meaning that our radiator is working great. So I do expect if we do lower that thermostat, the temps would lower with the thermostat since we have a much larger capacity radiator and it's a 2-row compared to a single row of the OEM. But enough talking, I do want to show you what I had to trim to make it fit. So let's go. All right, and to make everything fit, what I wanted to show you guys is right here where let me set my light down. Right here where I was talking about, we did have to trim. You can see it is arced out a little bit with some light. You should see that a little bit better. So I did have to trim that to make that fit. It is very tight fit, and I did trim some of the fans down there. Some of the this bracing here. I did trim some of that down here so I could slide it in. I do expect if you have a top mount intercooler where the pipe comes this way, you won't have that issue, but since this pipe is slightly leaned forward and then goes around our front frame rail, there's really no wiggle room. This pipe is bolted to the front timing cover, so this pipe doesn't move at all. And then the radiator is bolted, so this doesn't move at all. So there's really no movement. So and there's no rubbage that I can see on the pipe here. So I just trimmed it just a little bit to make this pipe fit. And then we did have to trim one of the supports right here so I could slide it in sideways. I couldn't slide it straight down. But there's no vibrations, no nothing. It just works perfectly fine. It's just trimmed. Let me get the light a little bit less. It's just trimmed just a little bit just to fit the contour of that pipe there. But you can see how close it is basically touching the fans there because the radiator is a little bit thicker. It did space it out just like a 1/2 inch more. And I mean, there's no more room. So this is like maximum space usage. So if there's any companies watching this video, if you want to make a set of slim fans, let's go. I'm ready. I'll buy them. I'll test them out. A set of slim fans would really work on this with a nice shroud. I know on my BRZ, Mishimoto makes a slim fan setup with a shroud that just bolts to either their stock fans or an aftermarket, a stock radiator or an aftermarket radiator. I was running the Mishimoto slim fans with my CSF radiator on the BRZ and it worked perfectly fine. And it did give me a little bit extra room because on the BRZ, on the FA20, the intake manifold's flipped, so that red manifold's facing this way, and the turbo sits right here. So there's a lot of heat generated here, and that's why I got the CSF radiator, and that's why I also got the slim fans, because there's no room between the turbo and the fans on the BRZ. So the slim fans really help that out. So if there's any companies watching this video, if you want to make a set of slim fans, let's get them made. Let's get them tested. We need them for this car, especially with a radiator and a front mount intercooler setup. There's no room here. but it does fit. If you just do a little bit of trimming, it's definitely worth it. It doesn't affect anything with the structure of the fan or anything. Everything's solid. There's no check engine lights or anything, obviously, from just trimming a little bit. But overall, I still give it a 10 out of 10 for the quality and everything. Now, fitment, I'll go like 7 out of 10 because I'm sure it fits perfectly fine without a front mount, and obviously it does fit fine with a stock top mount setup and everything. But other than that, our install is complete with our CSF radiator. But if you like this content on our 22 WRX, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We have more to come. We're going to be trying to get some draggy times. Hopefully we get to the drag strip at some point. But until then, see you guys.